Rafael. That's really fascinating. What did you think?
It really was. That was one of the best conversations we've had on a topic that normally, right, we have a difficult time finding folks to talk about that substance of the industry. Loved it, learned a bunch.
So what we're talking about, guys, is our episode coming up for you all is with Dave Chmiel. He's with Hub International, and our conversation today focuses on that broker perspective. And I got to tell you, that's one of those areas where I really have not felt super confident in my career. I never really quite understood exactly what a broker does. Now I have a much better feel for it. And as we learned today, that has changed quite a bit in the last 20 years or so.
It has, absolutely. But what a great conversation.
Yeah, so let's go talk to Dave Chmiel.
Let's do it.
Hey there, Rafael. How are you today?
I am doing great, Yvonne. How about you?
Doing fantastic. It was really good to see you and Lisa the other night. We had dinner recently, so it's always nice to catch up in person.
It is. I'm so proud of both of your daughters. We had dinner with the one, but I really do. We love them as our own. They're just so articulate and bright, and their careers, right? She's just wonderful news with Tampa General. Like, wow. I love it. I just love it.
Thanks. So for folks that have been listening, he's talking about Roshan. She's finishing out her residency at Tampa General Hospital, and she's already been offered a full-time job position, which she accepted. So we were having a little bit of a celebratory.
Yes, we did. I really am. I'm proud like a father. Like I have been watched her, right, go through school and then become a doctor, and now this residency, and now like, wow, before our very own eyes, right? A career has been born and a profession has gotten started. I just love it.
Thank you. So our guest today is a very special guest. I'm very excited. So without keeping you all waiting, let's bring on Dave Chmiel. Hi, Dave.
How you doing? Happy Monday. Good to see everybody.
Happy Monday. Thank you so much for setting aside some time for us to talk to us on our podcast. So before we get started, please take a moment to introduce yourself, where you're located physically, and the company and the role that you have.
Sure. Thank you. And I have to give you both congratulations. You know, you both are pillars in our industry in claims, and so evident in social media and so forth. And I just want to say thank you for what you both have done for folks in our field. It means a lot to us. This is my 35th year in the industry. I started when I was 5. I'm just kidding. Out of college, my mom said, "What are you going to do with your life?" And it turned out our neighbor was a field adjuster. And he's like, you know, you always need insurance. It's a good start. So I went to Liberty Mutual training. Back then, they had like 6 weeks of training. It was a lot of fun. And I spent 10 years at Liberty Mutual. We handled things like UPS. So it gave me a really good background to understand how to manage a total cost of risk, especially with large accounts. And in 2000, I was introduced to a recruiter on the brokerage side. And I love sports. I have a huge sports background, still play hockey. And risk management in the sports space really interested me. So joined a Chicago broker called Tillman Filippini, which eventually became HRH, which eventually became Willis. So 12 years with those folks. And, you know, I think I had the advantage, and I'm very blessed to say that from day one, I was taught the sales side of the business in terms of what I call an economic buyer or a CEO, CFO is looking for when it comes to managing risk and pricing. And so I got to see both sides. I still managed claims, but I also got to see from a 30,000 foot level just really what's important to a client. And one thing they taught me from day one was to listen. And I've taken that to this level. 14 years ago, in November of last year, I was introduced to Hub International, and my life changed forever. It is an amazing organization. Hub is the 6th largest broker in the world, and we are private equity owned. And I was given a hybrid role, to manage 2 regions from a claim perspective, as well as be in sales. And about 5 years ago, Hub went through an extensive search to build a national practice for claims. And I was chosen to be the Chief Claim Officer of North America for Hub overall. And it has been a role that I've absolutely, is a dream job for me as a claims person. And I've absolutely loved the role and the people I work with folks like you as well.
Thank you. So if I listened, I heard you say you started out as a claims professional, so you learned the claims desk, and now you are Chief Claims Officer with Hub International.
Right. For all of the entire organization per se, yes.
Wow. So one of the things that we're going to dive into today, which I'm really excited about because we really haven't covered this part yet on our podcast. And so what we've been doing for the past, this is our second year doing it this way, is sort of navigating the workers' compensation system and learning about all the different perspectives, all the different stakeholder roles. Because anybody that's been in comp as long as we have, we all know that one of the things that makes it such a complicated thing to learn is to understand all the different stakeholders that are involved and what their incentives are and what's important to them. So I'm really excited to kind of dig into that broker perspective today.
Well, thank you. When you're in the claims world, as long as we are, you sort of specialize. I'd say after all these years, there isn't one person that is an expert in every line of coverage, from property to D&O to auto to comp. For me, it always was workers' comp. That's something, when you think about the brokerage world, about 65% of the premium that we write is work comp driven in the United States. And it's where the volume is. It may not have the complexity of a D&O or a construction defect claim, but there's a lot of nuances to it, as you know. And in my role, I always tell folks, whether they're new to the business or even claims people that have been doing this a long time, when we start working with a client, we need to understand, first of all, who they are as an organization, whether it's healthcare or manufacturing. If you are a hospital that has 500 lives, what makes you unique from your competition? What makes you different? Because I can't manage your total cost of risk as an organization unless I know who you are. How does corporate communicate with the field? If you have multiple locations, what makes Green Bay, Wisconsin different from New York, different from LA? And I think until you understand their demographics and who they are as a company or organization, how can we underwrite this and go to a carrier and really tell them who they are? We need to tell their story, both underwriting and in managing their claims. So I take great pride in the first 30 days of working with anyone. Just tell me who you are and let's start fresh with a dry erase board, if you will. And that's really my role in the beginning of working with folks, especially workers' comp, is, you take the analytics and figure out where the trends are, but let's find out who you are and look under the hood first.
I love that. So let's pull back a little bit more. So one of the other things that we do on the podcast is we try to explain things from the perspective of, we're all saying that we need to recruit newer, younger folks into the industry because we're all at the point where we're going to be retiring in the next couple of years, next few years, I should say. So explain to us, what does a broker do? So if we're looking at the entire workers' compensation pie, how does a broker fit in? And tell us what it is to be a broker from that very basic level.
So a insurance broker, I look at it as the middle person between a carrier and a client. So first and foremost, our job is to market the insurance for a prospective client or existing client in the marketplace and go to the Liberty Mutuals and Travelers and CNAs of the world, illustrate what their history is from a claim perspective, and try and find them the best type of policy from a work comp perspective that there is out there. So first and foremost, it's to place insurance for our clients. But the beauty of where I'm at is that's the transactional piece, and it is important. But in today's world in 2026, compared to when I started in the brokerage world, back then there were a lot of what we call price shoppers, where they go from broker to broker until they found the price they wanted. They weren't really worried about service. In today's world, whether you're United Airlines or UPS, or you're an electrical company with 100 employees, they look at us as an extension of their risk management team. So they look at us as advocates, consultants, and an extension of their team. So placing the insurance is one piece. But once it's in the door, how are we going to help you manage it from start to finish? you have legacy claim issues, and you also have things that could happen today, like a natural disaster of a tornado or hurricane. And are you ready for it? So first and foremost, to answer your question, long-winded, we place the insurance. That's our number one goal. But then we're going to manage that risk with you as a client. But we don't do any adjudication at all. No adjusting. So we're not a TPA. Most brokers, we're strictly consultative in that role on the claim side.
Wonderful. So we were chatting a little bit before we started recording. Dave, what is it that you wish people understood more about the broker relationship?
So when you, from the perspective of a client or just in general, would you say?
Just in general, you mentioned a few things before we started talking. So think of it from the client perspective. What do you wish people knew that brokers can do for them that maybe they don't think about or they don't understand that a broker is able to do for them?
I think first and foremost, they need to understand that, especially say a risk manager, for example, we are not a threat to them. We're not here to take anyone's role. We're here to be a friend and an ally for them and fight or advocate on their behalf if need be. Compared to 26 years ago, the role of a claims broker in today and working with a client is very different. In today's world, we're not combative. We're not trying to make a carrier look bad. We're trying to be collaborative. So for a client to understand, Dave and his team are truly advocates for us, and let's utilize them to help manage our risk and make us better as an organization. So that if you make widgets on a daily basis or you develop cars, that's what you do every day. But when it comes to managing the claims or managing your program, let us use our expertise so that when losses occur, we can help you not only manage it, but then make sure it doesn't happen in the future. So I think they need to really understand that we are their friend first, and we're an ally. We're an extension of you as a client. That's first and foremost, to answer your question. Very different than 26 years ago for a broker claims person, which maybe was a bit more, they called them a bulldog back then. And we can be a bulldog if we need be and get claims paid, but you get much more success by being collaborative in what I call a triangular approach, Yvonne. It's the carrier, the client, and the broker all in one. If you put us all three together, it's endless what we can do as a team.
So to kind of carry that thought a little bit more, at what point in a claim, or even say before a claim, should or does the broker begin influencing the strategy, the overall strategy?
So it's a great question. If we were to take over a client, say 4/1, the first 30 days of that inception of relationship is really important for us as claims and risk services folks. We say risk services, risk control, that's the pre-loss portion of consulting. Claims is the post-loss, but actually claims is pre-loss, and that I mentioned about understanding their culture. So in the first 30 days, we need to sit down with you corporately as well as the field and understand who you are. I always sit down, and whether it's via Teams or in a person meeting, get on a dry erase board and let's talk about what's worked for you so far from a workers' comp perspective. Where do you think the gaps are, whether it's service, whether it's response time, shelf life of a claim, litigation, medical cost containment, whatever it is your hot button is, let's find it. Do we need to move adjusters? So from a brokerage standpoint, one of my biggest roles on the claims side and the national director of claims role for me is to forge relationships with our carriers and TPAs so that if there is a claim escalation that's needed, I have the relationships to have that conversation. Or if there is like I mentioned, that first 30 days, we call them SLAs, special handling agreements, whatever you want to call them. Let's, again, dry erase board. Okay, if we're working with you, carrier, this is what we're looking for, whether it's advising the client and hub in the first 30, if there's a claim that's 25,000 and above and uptick in reserves, we're being notified. We're collectively deciding on settlements, $1, not 100,000, not 50,000. It's your money. And I say that all the time, is whether you're in a deductible program. So if you have a work comp client and the first 250,000 is their money. At the end of the day now, they have vested interest in really to manage these claims, right? It's their money and it's a collaborative approach. It's true the carrier and the adjuster is there to adjudicate the file, but you can make an impact day one when that claim occurs. So, and if you're what we call a fixed cost first dollar program where you pay a premium and you're done, again, it's still your money. And if we want to reduce that experience mod to get in the weeds a little bit, we can help do that. So those first 30 days, let's set up these special handling agreements. And a claim review is great. Everybody does them, whether it's 2 a year, 4 a year. To me, where the rubber meets the road with a claims broker is the time in between those quarterly reviews. Who's holding Hub accountable? Who's holding the client accountable? And who's holding the claims adjuster accountable? And I think it's, again, that triangle approach, but it's my job as a claim consultant to make sure that everybody does what we said we were going to do during the review. And that communication on a daily, if not weekly basis, in between the claim reviews is really where we make an impact, both financially and getting claims resolved. I say it all the time. If it's not in the file, it didn't happen. I'm sure you've heard that a million times before.
Mm-hmm.
And, at the same token, I think someone needs to hold them accountable. And that's what our role is, quite frankly.
Okay, so I'm going to ask one more question and then I'll let Rafael jump in here.
Yep.
But so thanks for explaining that. So where do you think brokers have the most impact? And I want you to say, first of all, does Hub focus on a particular type of company? Is there a particular type of company you work with, and explain what that is before I ask part two?
Sure. So Hub can write the insurance for any type of organization, quite frankly, whether it's a generalized manufacturing company with 400 lives or what have you. But what we did realize about 10 years ago is that Hub, the amount of premium that we have segmented out in certain specialties. Mm-hmm. So we have our specialty practices where we have aligned producers, account executives, claims people, and risk services, where the bulk of our business that we've been able to place has been in these specialties. And there are about 14 of them. And that includes things like healthcare, transportation, construction, sports and entertainment, professional lines of insurance, nonprofit, energy, education, certain verticals, if you will. And I say this all the time, is if I'm an adjuster and I'm managing a claim for a football player, you manage that return to work very different than Dave Chmiel, who sits at a desk or travels on an airplane every day. For a football player, it's, very physical. And what's the light duty for a football player? Well, they can help coach with film. They can call people for season tickets. There is light duty available. Or if it's for Dave, obviously I'm not lifting 50 pounds every hour. I can be placed in a light duty position. So it's a matter of truly understanding the type of business you're working with. And I say it all the time. You cannot adjudicate a healthcare claim the same way you can transportation and so forth. And the other piece to take into consideration in the United States with work comp, every jurisdiction's a little different. Everybody has the little different demographics, different wages, and when it comes to TTD and PPD, as well as closing claims out. If you're in Wisconsin and somebody returns to work and you close the claim, that medical stays open for 12 years. If you're in the Carolinas, you have to have what they call a clincher to close that claims out. So depending on where you are, as there's different nuances from a law standpoint, but the specialties have really been a key for us to really hone in on. Let us give you risk management for your vertical. We understand who you are. You're different than your competition, and you're different than the other verticals as well.
Thank you. And let me ask the second part, and then we'll turn over to Ralph. So where, with these specialties that you're working with, where do you see yourself, the broker, Hub, having the most impact in the claims process?
In my opinion, quite frankly, it's day one. If we are not inserted in the process in the beginning, and it's about a mindset. This may seem simplistic a little bit, Yvonne, but sometimes the people we are dealing with on the broker side wear about 4 hats. And maybe a CFO that's responsible for payroll, new business, mergers and acquisitions, and claims. And it's like, okay, this is one thing I juggle, Dave. How can you help me? And I think from day one, it's like, let me take a little bit off of your plate, Miss CFO, Miss CEO, and let me be an extension of you. Don't look at me as a vendor. Look at me as a
Mhm.
partner, as part of your organization. If we're involved in day one in setting expectations and goals for our clients from the carrier, from TPAs, then we're hitting the ground running and we're out of the barn. But as you both know, and as long as we've been doing workers' comp, if you don't start mitigating that loss until 50 days after somebody gets injured, the horse is out of the barn and we've lost control of that claim 100%. So whether it's litigation, medical, you name it. So I think it honestly, how can we impact it is to make sure that they understand when the loss occurs, we're helping setting up reserves with those carriers, we're setting action plans, and we're holding them accountable with the client.
This is really interesting. I'm having a fun time.
That's
I
great.
am too. It really is, Dave. This is so good because this may be one of those areas where even folks who've been in the field for a long time don't ever quite have, right, the opportunity to dive in and really get to hear, get to see from your perspective what you're providing us. So this is incredibly cool. And I think Yvonne already mentioned it. We've got a lot of young folks listening on,
Mhm.
right, that are asking, what's my place in this workers' compensation world? Where's an opportunity for me? Where can I take, whatever skills you may have acquired? How can I plug them in? And I think you're giving us here lots of different ideas for a lot of folks out there, how some of that skill set can be very, very usable. I want to sort of start big picture here. So generally, right, the theory out there is that most brokers engage with or help large organizations with kind of large number of employees. True or false? And give me maybe a little more, definition about that.
So depending on the broker you're speaking with, Ralph, you're right. I mean, the larger brokers tend to play in a bigger space, if you will, and that is their bread and butter, whether it's an international company or a company with 10,000 lives. But historically, Hub is what we call a middle market broker in the past, where middle market meaning maybe 100 people in an organization to 5,000. In today's world, Hub is what we call upmarket and complex risk. So we're doing everything. We're doing 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. So it's funny. There are times where we'd meet with a prospect and they'd say, "You have a lot of resources, Dave, and your bench is amazing. Here's my biggest concern: am I going to be a little fish in a big pond?"
Mhm.
And the answer is no. The answer, because the beauty of what we're doing, and I can speak to our organization, is you're going to get all these resources, 225 claim professionals throughout the US and Canada with a borderless approach, meaning if I need somebody from LA or New York, they're at a moment's notice to help us with boutique service. And that, to me, that is our biggest differentiator as a broker is you're going to get that laser focused boutique style service, what you were accustomed to, maybe with a smaller agency that you used to work with. But now you have all these resources at your fingertip and you have access to markets that Hub has because of our size that maybe someone else didn't, that was smaller because they didn't have the amount of business we do.
Of
And I think,
course.
yeah, so that is it. And I think for the younger people who are listening on the call, the best advice I got from a former mentor was, and I was getting put in a regional role. This was 20 years ago. He said, there are a lot of technical people out there in insurance claims, and especially the brokers world. They understand it technically. They understand the black and white of whether there's coverage or not. But if you want to be a good consultant on the brokerage side in claims, he said, I'd rather have a person with an A+ personality and a B- technical background as opposed to A+ technical and a C- personality, because you need to be relatable. You need to understand that we are delivering a message on behalf of a client, when we go to a client to talk to them about a coverage denial or a coverage situation. And it's not just how you deliver that message. You need to tell them how you advocated for them. And maybe there's something they can tell you that can move the needle to a positive result that we didn't know about. We can't just walk in with a piece of paper and say, it's denied, we're done. Next Ken. It doesn't work like that. So, but sometimes folks in claims are so technically driven, they don't see that 30,000 foot bill. And that's what a good claims consultant in the brokerage world understands.
Dave, I love that. I mean, and it takes somebody like you, right, with these many years of experience, who've seen it from all these angles, to appreciate that, right? That it really does take that effort to get to know the client.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said it, first 30 days, 60, 90 days is, I've got to know who you are. I've got to know the business you're in. I've got to know your culture. I've got to know what's important to you. What are the issues? What are the problems? What are your frustrations? You've got to get to know all of that for you guys to then to be able to say, okay, based on our research, based on who we know, based on what's out there, here may be the 1, 2, 10 different programs, right, that best fit you and would provide you exactly what you need.
100%.
I mean, that there's no program out there that you can automatically, type it all in and it spits it out. It necessitates that expertise, if you will, right?
100%. And someone asked me the other day, do you think AI, and this is a whole nother topic, by the way, I'm sure on your podcast, but
Yep.
Do you think AI is going to replace us in the claims world? And my answer is that AI is only going to help us, and it already has. And you only are going to lose your job to someone who utilizes AI better than you. If you don't use it at all, I think it's a problem, because there is a place for it. But there's an empathy factor when you're dealing with claims. As an adjuster, in my role, in your role, you have to be relatable to a client when there's a traumatic event where AI doesn't come into play. That's where we come into play. Whether it's when I was working with Hurricane Ian during Sanibel, I know it's not work comp per se, but to talk to somebody who had just retired, built their $300,000 dream home, and it was gone in 2 weeks, and they didn't have insurance. It's like, that's a tough message to deliver. Workers' compensation, somebody who's been an electrical worker for 30 years, and they're now 48 years old, there's no transferable skills, and now you have to tell them either you're going to get in a supervisory role, or you're looking at a wage differential and your career may be over. Again, an incredibly tough conversation to have. And it's how you relate to them and find different ways to find a solution for them, so that they can feel like they're contributing to a company and still work in the job they love.
Dave, sounds like the program that you guys have built, right? It's and it is different, you said it, than it was 25, 30 years ago. Because at one point there were delineations, right? There were lines.
Yes.
But as I hear you, right, you get close in to that management team. You get close into, right, the claims component of things. You get in, right, and talk about risk management and how that plays out. So there seems to be a blurring of those lines that historically you said, nope, you stay in your lane.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit. I mean, is that something that has naturally progressed for the company purposefully, that you guys have decided that's the best way to serve the client?
I say this when I meet with someone for the first time, is the best kind of broker is the one that's going to grow with you as an organization. Mm-hmm. So if you're a company that only had 2 locations 5 years ago, and today you have 40, you are a different company than you were 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Me as their broker, did I grow with them? Did I continue to give them offerings that would help a larger company that they didn't face 5 years ago? And I think in order for us to be effective risk managers in my space, we had to grow in that space. We had to be more productive. We had to be more creative and empathetic to what our clients are looking for. And part of that was understanding the specialties, understanding that construction claims are very different than transportation or sports and entertainment, and really understanding. And it was a lot of fact finding too, Raf, to be honest with you, is I'm sure you've seen, and I see for you all, we're often traveling the first half of the year a lot when it comes to our roles. And whether I'm at a summit internally for Hub, or I'm out at other events, sales meetings, or carrier events. For me, it's about building those relationships for trust. It's sort of like you're a manager on a baseball team. That those players are going to fight for you if they trust you and the vision you're trying to collectively do. Well, when I go out and start working with a carrier or a TPA, there has to be trust between me and that organization. There has to be alignment of what Hub values and another carrier or TPA values. And I think that's the evolution of a claims broker the last 20 years, is we had to align those relationships, as opposed to, and this is no disrespect to how things were done 25 years ago, but
Right.
you can't just go on a golf course, become friends, and write the insurance.
Yeah.
There are, I met with a woman who had a Harvard degree and is incredibly intelligent and understands risk management to a T. And she had some very specific goals in terms of what she was looking for when it comes to a broker. So we had to have delineated, measurable goals that we were held accountable for, or they wouldn't entertain us as a broker. It's like, okay, this is great. I understand you can place insurance, but we have to talk about how we're going to put our work product at risk so we can illustrate to them that we are truly part of their team. So if we don't reach A, B, C, and D, we don't get paid. And we're really going to put our skin in the game, if you will. And frankly, if you're a CFO or a CEO, they take great pride. So it's a matter of either my claims get reduced, my collateral gets lowered, and I get a lower premium, or I don't have to pay Hub. And that, it's, they're incentivized to, because now we feel like we're part of your program.
Yeah.
It's not just a transaction. It's not just a vendor relationship. We're part of your team.
One more, Yvonne,
Yep.
before I let you go back in, because I loved how you pictured this, right? You're in the middle between that client, let's say an employer, right, and the carrier.
Yes.
But I've heard you throughout today's conversation talk about a TPA in there. Sometimes it's a large enough employer that they're self-insured and it's a TPA running the claims. Sometimes carrier involved, but the claim handling happens at the TPA. So all of a sudden, it's not just three, there may be four of you, right?
Yes.
Managing this entire, things can get, every time you add a new layer, things get a little more complex. Give me a little bit of what does that world look like? Is it, harder, tougher to manage that, right? How does Hub work in that ballpark, if you will?
So I think it can be convoluted a little bit if you don't identify what everyone's role is. I was brought into a situation out in Florida about a month and a half ago for a Hub client that's been around for about 5 years. And they brought in a new risk manager who had worked with different brokers, the top three, if you will. And he had certain expectations, and he had laid them out from the beginning. So I went out there and met with him, and he's like, okay, my role is X, and we're a different organization than we were a year ago. I now have these two individuals that work with me. Their roles are X and Y. And how are you going to integrate Hub? So what you asked for, Raf, was exactly what he said to me.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent 3 hours through lunch figuring out exactly what each role was, what our triggers were, what was important to him, what was important to her. And we had put a service plan in place at the beginning of the year, 1/1. 9 months later, we threw it out and started over because he took over. And again, I think it's a matter of being an extension of their team and understanding what they want. You can call it a gap analysis. You can call it a work comp injury management program. At the end of the day, it's understanding your culture and collectively coming up with a new plan together. That's really what it is. And we weren't looking for gaps. We were looking for what their needs were. And you're right, there's now 3 layers.
Yeah.
A year ago, there was one, a different risk manager. Now you have a new risk manager and 2 other folks who had extensive experiences with a really large airline. So these were intelligent folks that understood the landscape very much so. And this company had grown 400% in 5 years. Think
Wow.
about that growth.
Yeah.
So first question he had for us is Hub still capable of handling us with our growth? So we laid it out. claims, risk services, service. 6 months later, they couldn't be happier. This is a success story, obviously. But again, if we didn't sit down with them for those 3 hours and lay it out, we would have lost the account by now, for sure.
Love that. Just love that. It really is how things have changed so that it is looking at the overall and figuring it out. And the only way you can do that is by listening, paying attention, absorbing what the client needs, right? Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. And again, it seems simplistic, but you'd be surprised how it isn't done.
I hear you loud and clear. You're absolutely right.
Okay, I have a couple of questions, and we're going to do rapid fire. We're going to do really short, brief answers because we're going to need to start wrapping up. And I really am enjoying this conversation so much. So first question, Dave, is
Yes.
From your perspective, I'm getting that you're very involved. You have great relationships. You're good at making those relationships with your clients. From your perspective, what is the biggest driver of delayed recovery in the claims that you're seeing today?
Delayed recovery. I think a couple things. First and foremost, when an injured worker goes to see a physician, has there been laid out a functional job analysis or a detailed analysis of what Dave Chmiel does every day? I sometimes think, and again, this seems remedial, and I learned this from UPS when I worked with UPS, but if a physician is only taking what the injured worker is saying he or she does every day, it's a very different perspective. I'm not saying that every claimant is trying to cheat the system, but if they don't truly understand who you are in terms of what Dave does every day. And also, did that physician ever take the time to go to the job site and see what Dave does, or maybe that immediate care center? So I think it's A, understanding what the job is, B, understanding whether or not there's light duty available, and C, I think we all are claims people, physicians, at times are psychologists, in that you really have to sit down with that injured employee. And most of the time, I like to think they're good people. I look at things half full all the time. I've got 2 young kids, and you learn a lot about who you are as a person when you become a father. And patience is really important. And I'm not sure I had that patience when I was 21, but the patience of working with an injured worker to listen to them, understand where their pain is, understand what their mindset is. Do they really want to get back to work? So I think the empathy factor and understanding what their job role is really delays people from going back to work.
Great. So, and the last thing I want to ask is, where do you see the biggest disconnect between brokers, claims teams, and clinical providers? You just mentioned a couple, but where is the biggest disconnect, and how does that show up in the life of a claim?
Well, that's evolved as well. When I first started in the brokerage world, and again, I'm aging myself a little bit, but when somebody went to see a physician and you were off on full duty, they went to see a Dr. Levin today. 3, 4, 5 weeks later, there was transcription, and maybe you got the doctor's report. So now you went through a 5-week period where maybe Dave could have gone back to work, but you were waiting on that report. Then we evolved into nurse case managers who attended appointments. Well, not every claim has a nurse case manager going on these appointments. So, in today's world with email and with technology the way it is today, I think getting folks back to work in a faster fashion is so important to the bottom line. When you think about somebody who's off on workers' comp, and I know you both know this already, but for the younger folks who are listening today, if my role in my company is something that only I know how to do, and I'm off work for 8 to 12 weeks, you have to train somebody else to do that or find somebody else to do it. And now you're taking away that other person from what they do. And now your work product is down probably 40%, and you're losing revenue as well because you're not making as many as you would if Dave was healthy. So again, it's really important from day one to make sure that these folks return to work in a faster fashion. So because you have to realize we're affecting our clients' bottom line. And in most cases, outside of payroll, workers' comp is one of the highest items on a budget sheet for a CFO. Ask any of them.
Well, thank you. I know that you're very involved. We've chatted a couple times about how I see you all, traveling here and there and everywhere. I know you do many trainings and you get very involved in those trainings. We've got you coming to a couple of events, one right around the corner. And then, of course, we'll see you at Elevate later this year. Thank you so much for your support at Elevate.
Yes.
We appreciate it. We always like to wrap up our episodes with something fun. So I'm going to let Mr. Gonzalez ask the fun question so we can wrap up.
Dave, you're a busy guy. You're traveling, all over the country, serving folks. But what do you do for fun? How do you like to relax? What things do you do out there to make sure that you're still whole and that you're good to come back again and do your very best?
So I could tell you this, and my parents, who have unfortunately have long passed away, I've never been one to know how to relax, first of all. So when I figure that out, I'll let you know. However, I love to stay busy. So I'm an avid sports guy. I still love playing hockey. I'm a goalie. I still love playing. It sort of gets my aggression out. You hang with the guys and the camaraderie, and ladies, it's amazing. We've got some women players who are amazing on the team as well. They're just great folks. I work out a lot. I love to hit the gym, but the thing I think that drives me the most today is I have a 13-year-old daughter that is a softball player and a 10-year-old that's a basketball and soccer player, and coaching them on the side and helping them develop and watching them grow. I didn't have the advantage or the pleasure of playing sports when I was in my middle school years. So I'm sort of living through them, and that's where I relax now, and I get to watch. It's a lot of fun. A little nerve-wracking at time when it's one strike to win the game and she's pitching, but that's really where I spend my time.
How awesome. I love that.
I love it too. Yep.
That's the best, isn't it? When you see them, grow and become, and you see the change right before your very own eyes, and they'll surprise you, the amazing things they're capable of doing. Yeah.
Well, Yvonne, congrats on your daughter. Like I blink and I can't believe they're 13 and 10. Like, where did the time go? And when they're going to be 20 and 23, I'll be having the same conversation. Like, where did the time go? So
I tell you, we talk about that a lot. Rafael and Lisa, his wife, and I, and my husband. It goes by in a blink. So savor. We always say savor every moment. There's always going to be a new set of challenges, a new set of really awesome things happening. But it's an exciting time having teenage daughters, and one teenager and almost teenager. But
right.
Lots of active years ahead. So I'm glad they have you to encourage them and be involved in their sports. It's really important.
Thank you. And I want to say there's one thing that really attracted me to you both, to Dwayne Johnson, with Elevate, is in the claims world, you don't often see the amount of energy that I think collectively we as a group have.
Mm.
And I absolutely love my role at Hub. I love our industry. And for people who have been in the business as long as us, you don't see too many folks that are still that excited to get up in the morning. And I knew I was having this call today, and I was really stoked, and it's an honor to be on your podcast. And I just want to say thank you, because like I said, you are pillars in the industry. And my only regret is I wish I had met you sooner. This is awesome.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very sweet. We do, Ralph and I joke about a lot about it, that we really do love what we do. We do different things day to day. He gets very involved in all things Medicare and things that have to do with Medicare, Medicaid. And I'm, living in a very different world, but we make it work. We love doing this podcast together. And I just want to say thank you for making time to show up today and have a conversation with us. I really do appreciate it. And I think it's going to help a lot of folks better understand the whole broker perspective.
Thank you. And anybody who's watching today and has further questions, please reach out to Yvonne or Raf or me direct. You can find me on LinkedIn, and career advice or what. I'd love to speak with you. Like I said, I think it is. I feel very fortunate to be where I am in this world, especially in this industry. I don't take it for granted at all, because it's an honor to be in the role this high in this organization and be in this industry this long. It's unique.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. You make us better. You really do.
Yeah.
right? Because
Thank
I think at the very core of it, you're serving folks, right? You're listening and paying attention and trying to make them better. And isn't that what all of our goals are every single day? So I love
Yeah,
it.
and also leading by example. Like I said, I haven't known you all that long, but the short amount of time that I have known you, going on 3 years now, you've never said no to me. You're always available to show up when I need you to. So it's really nice to have a resource like that. So
Well,
really
thank you.
appreciate it.
No, I love to do this again. And like I said, I'll see you at a couple events, and Elevate this year is going to be epic. I can't wait.
It will. Awesome. So until we see you next time, hasta
Hasta
luego.
luego.
See you. Bye-bye.